Welcome to today's explainer. Okay, if you've been following the AI agent space even a little bit, you probably already know about Hermes Agent by NousResearch. It's an incredibly powerful, self-improving AI agent. But let's be totally honest here. Managing it strictly through the command line, well, it can introduce a ton of friction. If you've ever found yourself juggling multiple terminal windows just to keep track of what your AI is doing, you are in exactly the right place. So I want you to think about this for a second. What if you could harness all that raw, autonomous power without touching a single YAML file? We've all shared that exact frustration, right? Stopping your workflow to manually edit config files or pulling your hair out trying to write raw cron expressions just to get an agent to run a simple schedule task. It totally interrupts the magic of working with AI. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, the CLI agent problem. 2, enter Hermes Desktop. 3, GUI-powered capabilities. 4, under the hood. 5, limitations and bugs. And finally, number 6, the final verdict. Starting with Section 1, the CLI agent problem, friction and frustration. Look, Hermes Agent is an absolute powerhouse. It literally learns your habits and builds new skills on the fly. But currently, all that capability is kind of gated behind a steep command line learning curve. The before state means if you want to switch a provider or toggle a skill mid-session, you're manually editing your config.yaml file by hand. You're writing raw cron expressions for scheduling. It's tedious. The after state replaces all of that with menus, clicks, and a clean, unified window where you can chat and monitor the agent's background work simultaneously. Moving right along to Section 2. Enter Hermes Desktop, the smart wrapper. So this community solution was built by a developer named Fatha, and it specifically bridges the gap between raw power and actual everyday usability. Now here's the absolutely crucial thing to understand. Hermes Desktop is an Electron and React GUI layer. It does not replace the underlying Hermes agent or rewrite its logic. Instead, it wraps the official install script, acting as a graphical shell. So you get the exact same underlying NousResearch AI, just with a highly accessible, user-friendly layer right on top of it. And getting it deployed is incredibly accessible. It's available natively across all the major operating systems. So whether you need a DMG for your Mac, an app image, or a deb file for Linux, or just a good old standard exe for Windows, you're covered. It gets you up and running without forcing you to manually clone Git repositories or mess with terminal commands. Which brings us to Section 3, GUI-powered capabilities. Unlocking the agent. Okay, the real magic begins with the guided first-run setup. Instead of hunting down prerequisites like you normally would, the application completely hand-holds you through the complex installation process. You just choose between a local or remote backend. If you go local, the app automatically runs the official installer, seamlessly resolving dependencies like Git, Python 3.11, and Node in the background. Then you just select your LLM provider, and you are ready to go in minutes, no stress. And this brilliantly illustrates the flexibility of the platform. You aren't locked into just one AI model here. You can connect to OpenRouter to access literally over 200 models through a single API. You can plug in Anthropic for direct Claude access. Or, hey, if you have the hardware for it, you can connect directly to local open source models running on Llama, LM Studio, or vLLM. It's incredibly versatile. Once you're actually inside the main workspace, everything you used to do in the terminal is now completely visual. It's a real game changer. The memory editor lets you dynamically view and edit what the agent actually remembers about you. The Skills Hub functions like a little mini app store for capabilities. You can build cron jobs through a simple scheduling form rather than confusing text strings, and the messaging gateway easily connects your agent to Telegram, Discord, or Slack. But it is absolutely crucial to remember that this friendly interface doesn't dumb down the agent, not at all. You still retain all those advanced capabilities, like sub-agent delegation for parallel work streams. The agent can execute Python code right in a secure sandbox, and it even runs an OpenAI-compatible HTTP endpoint, so you can connect your other local apps. The GUI simply makes all this raw power instantly accessible. All right, let's pivot to Section 4, Under the Hood, the tech stack. For our developer audience out there, let's peel the onion a bit to see what actually makes this tick. The modern web tech stack here is remarkably robust. It uses Electron 39 to give you a seamless cross-platform shell, React 19 for a really snappy UI, and Vite for fast builds. But I think most impressively, it utilizes SQLite FTS5 for local storage. This gives you incredibly fast full-text search across your entire conversation history. It's super slick. So here is how those pieces actually communicate locally. The React front end connects to the Python backend agent via your local host on port 8642. And it leverages server-sent events, or SSE streaming, which the desktop app parses in real time. This architectural choice is exactly why you get such smooth, live renderings of tool progress indicators, markdown, and token usage right there on your screen.
Now for Section 5, Limitations and Bugs. Time for the reality check.
Look, no software is perfect, especially in early beta, so we want to provide radical transparency on the current friction points. First up is security. Because this is an open-source project, the binaries are currently unsigned, meaning your operating system is going to step in and try to protect you. On macOS, you'll need to run a manual xatra command to clear quarantine. Windows triggers a smart screen warning, and Fedora requires a -- no GPG check flag. They're minor hurdles, but definitely important to know before you start clicking. And speaking of Fedora, there's a specific friction point for those users. Currently, there is absolutely no auto-update support for the RPM builds due to a known limitation with the Electron updater package. Basically, if you're on Fedora, you're going to have to manually download and reinstall the new RPM file for every single update.
Then we have GitHub issue number 109. This is a notorious bug for users installing via Windows Subsystem for Linux, or WSL. During dependency installation, the setup entirely stalls. It just stops. The documentation explains it like this. Playwright is waiting for a sudo password that has no TTY to read from. Grant passwordless sudo for the install, then revert.
Basically, the Playwright browser engine needs shared libraries to run. But in that specific WSL environment, the installer gets totally confused because there's no visible terminal prompt for you to actually type your password into. The current workaround requires temporarily granting your user full root access with the no passwd flag in your sudo's configuration. We absolutely must emphasize this. Granting temporary full root access is not a settle fix. If you use this workaround, you need to revert it immediately after installation. Finally, Section 6, the final verdict. Ease versus overhead. So it's time to weigh the pros against the overhead. Here is your core takeaway. Hermes Desktop perfectly solves the friction of managing a command line AI agent. The quality of life improvements, like that visual skills hub or the easy multi-provider switching, they are massive. But you are trading that ease for the typical resource overhead of an Electron app and the quirks of unsigned beta software. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you ready to trade the raw speed of the terminal for the comfort of a GUI? Do the massive time savings of avoiding YAML files outweigh the early beta rough edges on your system? That is the decision you get to make today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.